We're going to call this meeting to order. Welcome to the FinCom meeting of September 26th, 7:01. We're 1 minute late due to internet problems. I apologize for that. First order of business, minutes.
Move to approve the minutes of September 19th.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? They were emailed. All in favor? Any opposed? Sold. Okay, our first group will have the Youth Commission come on. We have a number of articles that have been budgeted. I believe it's the air conditioner and the dehumidifier.
Just the AC for this year.
Oh, you're right. I stand corrected.
We'll take
Dehumidifier is
both,
next
but-
year. No, no. So, subcommittee chair that covers the Utes. Would that be you, Joycey?
It's
No,
Jeff.
it's Jeff Nero.
Jeff's not here. Okay, so we're not going to get a subcommittee report.
Anyone else on the committee?
Anybody else in the committee that,
I've never been to one of the I've never been called for a meeting, so,
oh,
You're welcome anytime.
well, I mean, for a subcommittee meeting.
Oh, okay.
Jen, you're on.
All right, Katie's going to start, do a quick little rundown, update on the youth center, and
Can you
then,
introduce everybody?
of course.
Not that they don't know you, but I just think,
I'm Katie. I'm the assistant director at the Milford Youth Center.
I'm Jen Ward, the director of the Milford Youth Center.
And I'm Amy Tamani. I'm the chair of the Youth Commission.
and it seems like you brought some other
Of course.
support people, and I want to recognize them because we appreciate when, board members come out to support their department heads. So thank you for joining us.
Yes, we have John and Darlene DeLude and Sandy Croponi.
Hi, Sandy. Hi, John.
All right.
Okay, you're on.
I'm going to begin with a brief update just from the last couple years. So just for registration information, from 2016 to 2017, that school year we had 576 unduplicated members. And the 2017-2018 school year, we increased by 9%. We went up to 627. And currently in the first month since school started this year, we're already at 171. For the programs that we've offered 46 different programs over the last 2 years, in addition to regular use of the gym, the game room, and the lounge and kitchen areas. The free snack and dinner programs have been running since October 2017 for the snack program, and we started the dinner program in March of 2018. For summer camp, in 2017, we serviced 80 families. We had 4,000 in scholarships, and for summer camp 2018, we serviced over 100 families and had over 6,000 in scholarships.
I was going to say,
Pay for the AC.
As for volunteers, in 2017, we had 110 volunteers, and for 2018, we had 353 volunteers. Annual monetary donations and donations from Teachers Drive-In Academy totaled about $40,000. Annual fundraisers, $15,000, including our recent fundraiser from the telethon. We raised over $8,000. Really? Thank you, Al Korea. In grants, we have over $60,000 in grants over the last 2 years to complete the dance room in the basement, purchasing mobile food service carts for some of our events, a grant writer, and a few other things. For rentals over the last 2 years, we have 40 different rental groups and organizations utilizing the facility and bringing in about $45,000 annually. In-kind donations over the last 2 years, we've received over $50,000 between furniture, supplies, and anything that people find, and they're like, oh, you need this. Volunteer projects have estimated over $100,000 over the last 2 years, including basement projects such as finishing the painting of the floors and the ceilings and the walls, landscaping out front, the batting cages, an outdoor shed, and radiator covers that we just received to cover the steam radiators. Some building upgrades due to capital projects. We got our gymnasium divider, we received bleachers, we received a video, an alarm, and intercom service.
and the thanks should go to Rob, Liz, and Daniel down at the studio, because they sent a note asking for money from the company. And I said, my company's in New Hampshire. You can't donate. it didn't take them 30 seconds to say,
What about
but
you?"
your family is in Milford. So they didn't give up till they got what they wanted.
Yeah, they were a huge part of that event. So yes, Milford TV was very responsible for all the success of that event. Thank you.
Well, I mean, we like the fact that the Milford TV is helping Milford kids.
Exactly.
So I don't hold it against them that they put an arm on me. Because they probably put an arm on a lot of other people,
I
too.
did.
Okay. Just as background, this air conditioning project, I've gotten my 5 questions that the subcommittee wants. They're going to go through the dollars. This has been budgeted, I think, for 4 years.
I think 3.
3?
Yep.
I just remember we went back. So why don't you start us off with how much you're asking for? And basically, you can go through the 5 questions, because that'll answer.
Okay. So we are requesting 200,000 for the AC of the head house of the building. So just to remind you guys, that is the office space and the first floor and the second floor. It doesn't include the gymnasium. That would call for a totally different system. And again, we're asking for the 200. We've received 2 quotes. Originally, when we had it on the capital, we had it on our capital plan to have a number for future planning. It was the 150. It's been 2-3 years now that costs have obviously gone up, so that's why we have the quote for 175. Over the last 3 years, it's become aware to us that it's actually hard to get a quote for a system like this. You need some engineering work to be done prior. But luckily, due to our connections with E&E, it's a local contractor, they contacted a engineer and was able to provide some of the paperwork necessary to provide us a quote so that we can come in with a number that's more accurate in terms of getting the engineering work, which will have all the drawings and the specs to go to bid, and then to actually get the project done for the head house. Luckily, it also includes 2 rooms in the basement. With the grant funds, we have a dance room that we want to get completed. So those engineering costs actually cover 2 rooms in the basement as well that will have to be done for future projects, considering we're doing that space over. To go over the questions, what is the need? Unfortunately, we did not have it in our renovation, as you guys are aware. And we had 2 summers, probably 2 of the hottest summers on record since we've been in the building. It's a very uncomfortable environment, especially during those summer months. We run a summer camp program, as Katie said. And it's not only for the comfort and the health of the participants that are in the building, but also to maintain the integrity of the building. We've had 2 independent studies done that have called for HVAC systems in the youth center, also to maintain the building, the walls, the floors, things like that. We've also seen some decline in rentals over the summer. When we tell them that there's no AC, in particular, we have a respite group that comes in. They can't utilize the building due to health concerns because it's so hot. We've had summer campers, actually, their families decide not to send them on some of the hottest days that we had this summer because this type of building actually really keeps in the cold or keeps in the heat. So it's just a circumstance that we're in, and that we're actually at the point where we can ask for the AC. How do we propose to address it? So due to the historic nature of this building and the type of building it is, they have called for a it's VFR. It's a variable refrigerant flow. It's not used with ductwork, so it's a little less invasive. It's much more energy efficient. There's a system that goes on the roof, and then through refrigerant coils, they go to each room. So we can actually monitor. We can have only rooms during certain times to have AC. So if they're not in use, we don't have to use it. And they also provide supplemental heat if need be. So that's actually an added bonus to these type of systems, so that where steam, you have to wait for it to rise and it takes a long time to get going, we can actually utilize it for rooms that we're using for that purpose as well. There's a lot of other reasons why it's more the better choice for, especially for a building like this: quiet operation, consistent comfort, and it's again more economical because you're not going into walls. It's not as invasive for the ductwork purposes. What alternatives that have we had to go through? So in terms of the building for the last 2 years, we've had to use mobile AC units that don't actually fit into our windows because of they're very thin in nature. So we've had to have a local company, Area Glass, come out and cut area, plexiglass for us so that we can have it vented out. And we do that for some of the offices, and we had to do it for our food service program as well, so people were comfortable. And then in every other room, because it's not efficient really to be running those in big spaces, we had to use just fans. And that's the best we could really do. The other alternative is on cool nights. We have exhaust fans in the gym, so you kind of circulate the air out. For summer months, we really just tried to use the basement as well. It stays a little cooler, so a lot of our programs in the basement. In the summer camp, we just were forced to kind of go in the basement to be comfortable. What steps we've taken, I already explained. We've done the 2 studies. We had 2 independent studies made just to see what the humidity levels were, and it's also for the future plans for the dehumidification in the basement. So they both called for an HVAC system to transfer mechanically the air and ventilate in and out of the building. And finally, the steps we've taken, we've met with multiple contractors, and we've provided the quotes and the cut sheets. And it was always in the plan in the future for this AC, so prior to the engineers during the renovation leaving, they left us the notes of saying that, that there were 2 structural beams in the roof, so that it would be prepared for the future, so that they wouldn't have to do a lot of internal work to the building prior to putting something like that on the roof. The engineer will have to check it out, of course, but it was in preparation for AC in the building.
Thank you. Before I open it up for questions, the dehumidifier that we have budgeted for next year, sometime in the next few months, I'd like an update on what that's going to cost. Is it safe to say that this system will interface properly with the dehumidifier?
Yep, there are two separate systems for the head house, but the basement is a system, the dehumidification system is gonna be separate because of the moisture in the basement, and some of those rooms, people are working out, it's calling for exchange of air, it's a different type of system. So, but it's the same company that we've had quote for the AC and the dehumidification.
I just want to make sure that the makeup air and all the pieces,
Yep.
that we let them know that next year, there's a good chance that we're putting in a dehumidification system, and that we don't find out, surprise, if we had known, we could have done this or that, and now it's gonna cost you an extra 10 grand. Okay. Other than that, Dr. Abedanza put up the 5 questions, the cut sheets, all the background information on the web page, on our website, so that anybody who wants details can do it. I commend you because you did it the right way, and now we're a month ahead, like we promised town meeting. So any town meeting member that wants to jump into details, see the cut sheets, they're available. I'll entertain any questions.
Question.
Michael?
So there's going to be a large unit on the roof. Is this going to be visible from the street, or is it small enough that it's not going to ruin the aesthetics of the building?
I don't know that answer, right. They're 2-ton units, but again, the engineer is the one that needs to come in, and we did send you guys like a rough drawing from the engineer.
Yeah, I see the drawing. It
said
just
that-
doesn't give me any scale.
In the contact with the original engineer from the renovation, they said that they're smaller units, but I'm sure there's ways that we can place them in the back so they're not as visible in the building.
And the only other question I had was, do you have plans in the future to air condition the gym?
We have not put it on the capital plan yet due to the fact that you do need an engineer and you have to front engineering costs usually to get what the system is going to be. It is in our future plans to try to have that on our capital plan. And it's not an AC, it's more of an air exchange. It does provide air conditioning, but it's really to help circulate what they call
The
swamp.
large circulator.
Yes, exactly, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Jerry?
You said 2-ton unit, the spec says 20 tons.
It's 2 10-ton units, so
Okay,
20.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, 2 tons seemed like an awful small
tons.
Oh, I'm
unit.
sorry, I didn't even realize I said
Tons
that.
not enough to fill my house. So
Sorry about that.
You have 2 numbers on this, one to complete the project, and then you need $18,000 to complete the engineering plans. Is that the way I understand it? So we're just, 175 plus 18 is the number we're looking at?
Yep, and then we have about 7,000
$7 grand
contingency.
contingency.
Yeah.
Okay. My only comment in looking at the engineering plans, he does this twice in this specification. He talks about electrical service upgrade necessary to complete the project. So he has excluded that out. So I'm just,
If I
what's
read
that
it,
gonna cost to bring this on board?
Yeah, there's several things like that in there.
There's several, there are exceptions, exclusions, okay? And we know sitting on this committee for as long as we have, those are always dollar signs to us.
Well, no, that's a good point. Is there any other work that you're expecting?
He says the proposal assumes that the existing utilities and electrical are sufficient capacity. He doesn't say they are, it says that it assumes that they are. So
Jen,
I'd like to answer that question, but I'm
could
not
you ask him
qualified to answer
before
that
we
question.
start?
Yeah.
You know, obviously, if this
Came in an email.
committee goes with an approval, we have to go to town meeting. But before you'd spend any money, because Jerry's got a good point, if he comes back and says, I need a new 20 grand service, then, you know, we need to talk again.
He also says existing utilities will be marked and indicated on the new drawing, if they're observable. And I'm not, this is a very good engineering proposal, and I'm really impressed with somebody's ability to just draw and put this down here, because it's discernible. It actually makes sense, and I wish more people would do this, because it answers 90% of the technical questions that we need answered, so we can say, go ahead and fund it. But I'm not sure that you've got a $7,000 cushion to make sure that you're gonna put two 10-ton units on this building without a $10,000 or $15,000 electrical upgrade. Because I wasn't part of the project when you did the $5 million project, and if there's a shortcoming on the electrical side of the service, this project has another $10,000 to as much as $20,000 to upgrade the electrical.
Would the committee feel comfortable that they will come back to us if it's going to exceed before they start? You know, obviously, the concern is, once you get started, you can't stop. So before we start, if it's going to be more, come on back.
We'll get some clarification.
That's all.
Yeah, we're-
And I could see
I'm
the
all in favor.
contractor saying, I'm not going to do all this work unless there's a high probability that it's going to go forward. With us, I mean, we have no power, but once town meeting says you get their blessing, we would just ask you, tell them, you know, okay, now there's a 99% chance, you know, that it'll go forward unless you come back with some major, you know, surprise. Okay, Michael?
Jen, going back to one of your brief comments there, do you have a heating problem in any of the rooms in the head house?
no, we do not. No, the heating system is working efficiently. It's just a more efficient supplement to the heating system if need be. It doesn't have to be used, but it is an option to be used for the facility.
Because the whole program, it's air conditioning. And yet the system going in is a heat pump system, of which air conditioning is only one part of it. The rest of it is heating, which is only good down about 28 degrees or so. You apparently have a good heating system in the building now. I guess I can't understand why you're paying extra to have a heat pump system when you were really supposed to be getting an air conditioning system and nothing more.
This was the type of system we were always prepared for. It was always a VFR type system, what was recommended by the architects. The heat system works efficiently. It's just the nature of steam. It takes a while to build up. It's a two-zone system. So this is a much more controllable addition to the system. And the difference in cost, from my understanding, isn't much. We asked one contractor to quote it on both, but, I mean, this was always in the plans to ask for these type of mini-split heat pump systems for the facility.
Thank you.
Any other discussion?
Motion to approve as presented?
Yeah, I have just a quick question.
Oh, Jerry, would you hold that for a second?
Yeah. What are the hours of operation in the summer? Could you just, do you go, yeah,
So we get in there, the first people get in there around 7:45. Kids get dropped off at 8 a.m. And they leave, the last people leave around 5:30 p.m.
But then there's rentals in the
Yeah.
evening, obviously, as well, but.
and what's the, you know, like daily attendance in the summer? Just give me a sense.
We hit up to, our highest was probably 70, around 70 kids. And that, I mean, we have staff either 10 to 1 or 5 to 1, depending on the activities of the day.
Okay,
How much do you
good.
bring in for the summer? You know, the summer camp, real rough.
So I think it was a surplus of
No.
17,000, I think.
17,000 this year.
So we're actually still making money on the summer program.
And that's with giving $6,000 of scholarships as well.
Which God bless. I mean, you know, any child in Milford that needs a little help, you know, luckily, we have enough of a financial cushion, we should take care of our own.
And the summer camp program also offered a free breakfast and a free lunch program for every kid.
Even better. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Hearing no other discussion, Jerry,
Motion to approve the $200,000.
we have a motion.
Second.
Mike Suarez, seconds. All in favor? Any opposed? Unanimous.
All right.
Thank you.
Hey, I'll have a quick
Nice
comment.
job.
You know, I work at the hospital, and I just want to thank you. We're having our annual fundraiser. It's called Melange. It's a little plug for the hospital as well. At the youth center, which I think is really a nice touch to have the community see what we've done to the youth center. So we're all excited about going to that.
Yeah, thank you. We are very excited. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
It'd be nice to see the youth center done out, because if people haven't been at a melange, it is the most incredible transformation.
That's what we, that's what we
That's fine.
hear. I know.
You'll enjoy it.
And this year, I believe it's circus?
Yes.
It's circus.
Isn't that ideal?
Compliment these people on the job they did on this presentation. I really wish everybody would learn what you have demonstrated as to what we need as far as a capital item goes. An engineering proposal, 2 estimates. This is the way it's supposed to be done. We don't, and this is why we struggle sometimes in these meetings, because our expectations are, this is the norm, and nice job.
And there's no surprise. It's the 5 questions we've asked for years, you know, so,
We don't-
again,
And we're welcome, and we welcome this.
yeah, Jen, pick a month, so we can start looking at the updated capital. Because this is the way we want to, you start, you get it on the capital, rough number, and we check it every year, and then when it comes within the year, you do the 5 questions, we're all ready to rock.
Okay. All right,
Thank you.
schedule a time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for your time.
Okay,
you.
thank you, Utes, and bring on the trees.
Trees are flopping now.
You don't, yeah.
Take note of the engineering company that did this.
Come on over here.
That guy did a good job.
Yeah, it looks familiar.
I don't think the projector's working.
To the
Oh,
library,
no.
so they
Well, we're
can,
gonna try
I
that.
thought we got that fixed.
they can get this guy on board before we get 5 years down the road.
You know, I think
Gotta point it that way.
if you
Yeah, we
point,
know that,
Either
but
way,
it's
if it's that way or that way, it's still not showing this.
oh,
So you might have to kind of gather around if you want to see the video, but let Chuck do his thing, and I'll follow up.
Okay. Over the past 4 years, we've had some extreme environmental issues, being the gypsy moth and drought. Because of those issues, we've lost, total count now is 230 trees over those 4 or 5 years. These dead and dying trees present a pretty good safety hazard. They're going to cause road closures, power outages, and who knows what, possible infrastructure damage and so on. So, that being said, I sponsored an article requesting $100,000 for removal of these trees. And it's that simple. Most of the trees are confined to the wooded areas of town. The neighborhood trees would be handled through our normal budgetary process. This will be a separate line item in the budget to get these trees out. Related items are going to be police details, stump grinding.
That's included in there.
That's all within the 100,000. Yes, it is.
Mr. Chair,
please.
how did you arrive at the 100,000? How did you get to that number?
How did I get that number? Well, that's going to be the second area of the discussion. I've contacted Mayor Tree Service out of Essex, Mass. They have a machine called a Centerbogan. There are only 2 of them in the country. I know.
All yours.
Go to it. And these things, they're expensive, but they will get the job done very efficiently and quickly, cost-wise.
Question I have, I'll be right there, Bobby. When did we learn? Because this is as far as I know, this is a $100,000 surprise.
Right. We can't put it into capital planning because I can't predict droughts and gypsy moths and what it's going to do. We know that it causes damage.
No, but capital planning, even if it was for the year, I mean, right now, we're coming down to 3 weeks before town meeting,
Correct.
and all of a sudden, here's a surprise of $100,000. I mean, Chuck, did all these trees fail in the last 3 weeks?
No, they're still failing. I'm
Okay,
still
but
finding trees failing.
did
I
you
mean,
find any, like, the beginning of the year, when we would know?
Yeah, and I've been taking out as many as I can through the normal budgetary process. I can't handle it normal.
No, I guess my point is, I'd like some forewarning, because we have 1.5 million in capital.
Correct.
We may have pushed off a truck or a dog or a cat if we knew 100,000 was coming our way. I got a real problem with finding out a month ahead of time that we've known for a long time we need to do this work. Why don't we get heads
Most
up?
of them have been dying this summer, okay, because of the results. Sometimes, when you have that type of situation with the trees, they don't immediately die. They just, without leaves, because of the gypsy moth defoliation, the trees can't make food to sustain themselves. So it's a quick onset.
Okay, now the $100,000,
Yeah.
it just seems like a really nice round number.
Yeah, Chuck, could you again go into the detail? Is it so much per tree? How did you get to the 100,000?
How did you get to 100 grand?
Okay, I got to the 100 grand knowing the costs of the police details and also knowing the costs of the machinery that needs to come in.
So it's not tree-related, it's not like there's 40 trees or 10 trees, it's to get this contraption in here is X dollars, no matter how many trees they do, or,
Correct. It's a daily rate.
okay,
The daily rate is $7,500
a day.
a day. With
How many days are you expecting?
6 to 8 days. That doesn't add up to 100 grand, but it's also police details, disposal of the debris, which there is a slight upside to that.
Is there a plan for this, Chuck? Something where you say, I want 100 grand and 64 of it goes
Damn
to,
cheap.
Unless
Hold
they're
on.
6-inch trees.
we'll wait, okay. 60 grand goes to this, 10 grand to police. I mean, it's kind of hard to support
Well-
100 grand if you don't know what it's going
It's all
for.
going to this
No, no,
project to remove the trees.
I understand, but
Okay?
100 grand's a lot of money, Chuck.
Yes, it is.
I'd feel a lot more comfortable if you came out and said 7 days, yeah, it could be 6.
Could be 8.
Could be 8.
Right.
So 8 times, that's 50, say 60 grand. The police are gonna be 10 grand. This is gonna be 5 grand, and then I got a contingency. But just coming out and saying, it's 100 grand for the trees, I'm trying to wrap my arms around it, and it just seems like too much money to not have details. Maybe I'm wrong, but
That was
Mr. Chairman, that's a
why I asked
pretty
the
cheap
question.
number per tree. If he's actually taking 230 trees down for
No,
100
I'm not
grand.
taking that many trees.
200 trees down?
230.
230, I have
right there.
listed.
Trees.
You're gonna
That's
take
400 bucks a
230
tree.
That's 400 bucks a tree, that's cheap.
6 days?
Excuse me?
Huh?
You're gonna take 230 trees down in 6 days?
My turn?
Yeah, go ahead.
So, my name is Dan McCarthy. I work
Yes
for.
or
Mc-
no?
Wait.
No, I mean, look,
I'm
no,
sorry.
it's
Can
not-
I give?
I don't know who
Not-
Dan
not
is.
at all.
I'm sorry, you were who?
Dan McCarthy from Mayor Tree.
Okay.
We just finished a job for Georgetown, the town of Georgetown, and then Boxford next door to that.
Yeah.
Low end, they did 38 trees a day. High end, they did 66. When I tell you we can blow through 230 trees, that's not an exaggeration. It is.
Either way, that's
It is. It is a confident. It is a confident yes.
You have a picture of the machine?
I have a
Guys,
picture.
hold on.
Yeah, we're trying to
Hold
get.
on. Bobby has the floor. Let's be respectful. Bobby has the floor.
3 questions, Chuck. Are all 230 trees on town property?
Yes. This doesn't have anything to do with private trees in any shape or form.
Is there any expectation we could get National Grid to absorb some of it?
I have talked to
They do,
National
as you
Grid.
know, have a tree trimming program.
I do, and I've
you're
spoken
well
to
aware.
National Grid. This is not a problem that's specific to Milford. This is the entire area that National Grid covers. They are totally overwhelmed,
Understood.
and they will give us some help.
They will.
They will, but they're not saying how much at this point in time.
Can we get something in writing from them?
Well, I will ask.
Another public utility up in Lawrence that is overburdened. And I think if they could go back and do things a little differently,
Right,
they might have. And I have, as you know, interfaced with National Grid in the past.
Right.
And once you sit down and explain it to them, I think they might be more receptive to it.
I
Nailing
have.
down a number. I would request that we do that.
Yeah, that's not an issue. That's not an issue, and I will do that. I have spoken to them. This is just an overview.
I understand.
My master list
Yeah.
lists what number of phases are on the poles, if it's a three-phase, single-phase, transformer, this type of issue.
My last
Once
question
they-
is, for 100,000, Mr. Chairman, why wouldn't we insist on competitive bidding, with all due respect to you, sir?
That was another question I was going to ask.
Okay, we will address that. They-
One of the things that, again, would be helpful, with every article that comes in front of the capital subcommittee, we ask for the 5 questions. You saw how the youth center came out, and one of those questions is competitive bids, because, again, 100,000, I'm not questioning the integrity of your bid. It's just, it's not our money. You know, it's the taxpayers' money, and we should get a couple.
Okay. This will go out to competitive bidding. Currently, they have the state bid for this machine.
Okay.
But it still, we'll still put it out to competitive bid.
Would you put together the 5 questions and give us the information so we can put it up for town meeting
Sure.
members?
Sure.
Because I think
Absolutely.
that'll go a long way, because everybody else we're asking to do that.
Yes.
Phil?
We have someone
Competitive
from,
bidding, I don't think we got an answer on competitive bidding.
He said, no, he said it would go out for
Said it
competitive
would.
bidding, even though they have the state bid on the machine.
We have there's no other company in Massachusetts that has this machine. There is no competition.
Again, as long as we go through the process and ask, I'm not questioning your integrity when you say you're the only one.
Yep.
But since it's not our money, it's nice to verify. So if Chuck puts it out for competitive bid and everybody says, can't play, then you've met at least a minimum for us. Phil, you had?
yeah, do we have someone from our committee assigned to
That was
work
my
with
next question. Who's on
Chuck?
the subcommittee?
Because Chuck comes before us, and I think if someone worked with him ahead of time in terms of putting together and itemizing the 100 grand, going out to bid, investigating the bid process, I think it would be a lot more efficient.
Jerry, doesn't that come under you or Joycey?
No, it's under Public Works.
Is that you, Joycey?
Yeah, that's me,
Okay.
yeah.
But someone should, when you come before us, Chuck, work with us. so
I know,
that
I
you're
know.
prepared when you
I
come in.
understand. I brought this to the selectmen. They are behind us
Yeah.
on this.
Not a question.
Yeah.
But again, if we're going to be fair and equitable,
Yeah.
Chuck, we can't be saying, yeah, Chuck asked for 100 grand, no problem. We just threw it up and ask everybody else to follow a procedure.
Mr. Chairman, there's 2 questions. I just want everybody to understand that I did the math. It's $434 per tree.
Correct.
Okay, I've had trees taken down at my house, and I wish I could have gotten them done for twice that amount,
Yeah, I know.
okay? The other thing is, it's Mr. Myers?
Mayor, I'm Dan McCarthy of Mayor Tree.
I'm assuming, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that anybody that tries to compete with you is gonna have to do this with manual labor.
Correct.
Predominantly,
Yeah.
and they're not even gonna be in the ballpark.
Right,
Like,
that's-
when you see,
Right.
when you see it work, it is, it's actually this is the way it's gonna be. Like, the technology that's coming from Europe is just inarguable.
Not a question, but just to understand that
I totally get your
it is
side.
taxpayer money,
Sure,
and before we spend $1, never mind 100 grand, we got to make sure.
Let me get my second comment.
Oh,
here.
sorry.
Mr. Schiavi and I were both kibitzing here. Shouldn't this be in his budget already? On an annualized budget? Because we keep kicking this thing around every year, and we keep missing this big chunk of requirement to keep the trees up.
Well, this is over and above the budget, because
I
the budget
understand,
wouldn't handle
but
that.
every year, we're over and above the budget.
What is the budget?
What is the
annually?
budget?
About
60,000?
87,000.
Huh?
Approximately 87,000.
87,000, because I know we started one time about 40, 50, 60, now we're at
It was
87.
25 when we started.
Okay.
Yeah,
The
it
trees,
has.
and the trees keep growing, and they keep falling in the
Yeah,
streets.
yeah,
okay?
exactly.
So my we need to look at this plus your 87 and come up with a budget so we can get through next year. And maybe this gentleman will have to come back midterm, okay, every 3 or 4 months and do a couple days to stay on top of this. Does that make sense
Correct.
to you?
That
sir?
makes sense.
Okay, Joycey, then you take it on to work with Chuck, and let's get it into the flow. Any other comments, questions?
I mean, this is public safety we're talking about.
Chuck?
We know-
Please,
Well,
please.
This is the finance committee.
Okay, we've lived through this before, where there were trees at Memorial that were public safety, but they've been there for 9 months. We're all for it, but this, as far as I know, there's no emergency that this has to be done tomorrow.
As long as they don't get hurt.
Okay,
as long as they don't start toppling, correct.
well, as long as a meteor doesn't hit the building,
Without
but you don't have to go with the public safety. If it is an emergency, then let's call it that.
Oh, we won't call it an emergency.
Without any further.
So
ado,
I think Jerry's point is legit. Let's get into a budget cycle
Right.
that's realistic.
Mr. Chairman, so to that point, how long did it take you to identify these 230 trees that need to be taken down within the next, I don't know how many, what months or whatever we're gonna do? Do you do this as a normal course of, the operation of a year?
I go around town every year and see what I can find. I get calls almost daily on, requests for this or that. That has to be viewed. Go out and look at it, dead limbs, limbs that are too low, sight distance.
So that's the point, Chuck. I think we need to get into planning what the town's trees are looking like, so that we know what needs to be taken down
Right.
each year. And then it's not a capital thing. This can't be. This should be an operational
It's
thing.
an
and-
operational
And Michael,
budget.
that's my
It's an
point, that if
operation.
Joycey's working with them, we should be able to get a quarterly update to say it's looking like, it's not 90 this year, it's looking like 120, it's looking like 130. So it's not a surprise that 3 weeks before town meeting, that 230 trees have failed in the last 60 days.
Yeah, and they have to be taken down tomorrow because
Right.
they're gonna fall off.
So that's my point.
Yeah, we're not saying it has to be done tomorrow, but I would like to get it done prior to the winter storm season.
Are these trees
That's
marked?
tomorrow.
Did you put an X on these trees?
No.
Can I
You
make a
didn't
motion?
forget which
Can I
trees
make
they
a
were?
Hey, guys.
Go to
Can I make a motion to
I have a master
approve the
list.
100,000, even though we don't,
There's a motion on the floor to approve. Is there a second? We have a second, and we're going that you will put together the 5 questions so we can put the bids and everything up on the website for town meeting
Absolutely.
members. Within the next week?
Yeah.
Okay, then we get at least 3 weeks ahead, so town meeting members, again, 100 grand's a lot of money. I want to be able to say that we had all the major articles for them to view. Okay, one more question.
yes, sir.
Out of the 87,000 in your budget, how many trees did that cover?
Well,
To give me some,
that's a rough question to answer, okay? Because we have pruning, we have planting, we have police details, we have disposal costs. So it covers all of that. It covers emergencies. It's not, I can't tell you that tomorrow morning I'm gonna do 5 trees. It just doesn't work that way.
okay, but how many, in this
We have
past,
125 miles of road roughly in town. That $87,000 is supposed to cover the costs for the 125 miles of road.
And how are we doing?
We're doing fine. I generally never go over the budget. Everything, goes quite smoothly.
Okay.
It's just that when something like this arises,
Motion on the floor, all in favor? Any opposed? Sold.
thank you.
Approved. And at this point, the real chairman
I don't
shall
think there
take
was
over.
any collusion, Mr. Chairman, but as I look across the faces of this committee, I find that 80% of the members either live on these streets or adjacent streets. Again, I'm not
oh, these are main streets.
suggesting there was any collusion, but good luck.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. All yours, Mr. Chairman.
Card, I'd like to see that video, if I could, maybe you can send it electron, yeah.
The committee,
Put it on the.
yeah, is there a?
Yeah, I'll give you.
All right, guys, sorry about being late today. Al, thank you very much for taking the meeting. Next item on the agenda, Town Meeting Improvement Group, Article 22. When Reno was in last time, he did a great job going over all the articles. There was a question about Article 22, I believe that Aldo brought up, about the wording on
Oh, I think it was
that. And he's not here, yes, sir. So we asked for, and Aldo's not here. So for that reason, we asked Reno to do a little clarification on the wording and to come back into us. So Reno, if you could just give us a quick refresher for anyone who wasn't here and, in some nice European country and.
Okay, let's see. As the chairman said, we met last, there was an issue where my town meeting study and approval committee were not officially the sponsor of the article. So we met on Monday night, and the committee voted to sponsor the article, to take responsibility of sponsoring the article. And we've also taken a position to support the article. We submitted some language modifications from what's in the warrant to the town council. This afternoon, I got the town council's review of that, and that's what you see in the handout that I gave you just now. I'm going to try to cut to the chase, which I know the chairman wants me to do, and not drift over too far. But basically, right now, incumbents sitting at town meeting, whose term comes to a conclusion before the next election, they've been submitting a letter to the town clerk to get on the ballot. Well, there's no bylaw in our town that says that's permissible. So for the past dozen years, we've been doing this process without some basis. So that's what kicked this thing off in the first place. Okay, so I want you to just look at two sentences here that we think is the nub of the matter. The one in green says that if you're a town meeting member and you move to a new precinct, or your precinct changes because of the census, you have to go out and get signatures. And we comply with that now. It was in section 3, but we put that paragraph again in this new section, just to clarify that that group is considered, is taken care of, and we do comply with that. The thing that's missing is what's in red. If you're a town meeting member now, and you want to go out, you want to get reelected, you can now submit a letter to the town clerk, and she could put you on a ballot. This codifies that process. So that's all this does, and the reason we bumped into this, because we're developing a handbook, and a section of the handbook will be, how do you become a town meeting member? So we got to have a legitimate process. So that's how this whole thing arrived, and so it looks like.
And to be honest with you, I think this is exactly what Aldo was addressing, and it looks like it's switched here with.
Well, there was an
text.
issue with Aldo's question. He was addressing the preamble to the motion, but the motion
Oh, at the
itself.
beginning, yes. Yep, no, you're exactly right,
So
now I
we
remember.
changed that just to be crystal clear.
Okay.
Because this section 4 addresses normal town meeting members whose term runs out, and it addresses new members as well.
Yeah, I think this language is
Chairman, I
much
have a
better.
question.
Is this the same, Reno? What was in the warrant and what?
No.
What you see in the handout is what's going to be the motion.
It's a motion, yeah.
So the red is different.
Okay, so this is different from what's
Yeah,
published.
the warrant is a notice of what's going to happen. It doesn't necessarily have to be exact language.
No, I just need to know for our report.
Oh, yeah, no, it's the handout is what we think is the motion, but, town council, like I said, this afternoon provided that he could make a tweak between now and the town meeting.
Yeah, Rena, I just have a question with the language, and maybe because I don't have it in its complete context, but it says an incumbent town meeting member excluding an elected town meeting member. What does that mean? Who removes?
Yeah, there's another sentence.
Well, excludes a town meeting member who moves to a different precinct.
Says
or their
removes, that's what
precinct
confused you.
boundaries have
It's
changed.
supposed to be moves instead of removes.
No, that's in the legislature. We just copied the language that's in the legislation. I questioned that too. It's removed.
The language is really not all that clear. I'm
I
telling
questioned
you.
that myself, but that's what the lawyer said.
Nothing, just complicated.
Okay. I'm not gonna
I'll
argue
go
with
with it, but
Well, now, just one more point. The issue at town meeting, I think, is going to be the debate. Do we want incumbents to go out and get 30 signatures every time their
No.
term runs out, or do we want them to submit a letter? I mean, I'm just saying that that's the nub of this issue.
I understand.
I'm sure maybe somebody at town meeting is going to argue both ways on that, because that's a two-sided coin, obviously.
Yeah, for town meeting to decide.
languages, anyway.
Yeah,
Okay.
do the best we can.
No, Reno, it's fine, thank you.
As a lawyer, I think the language is okay.
You do?
Because you're all weird.
That explains why none of us
I wouldn't have
understand.
expected anything else.
I just got $350 it cost us to figure out that that's what it
Yeah,
says.
Phil, that bothers me too.
That would be cheap at his hourly rate.
Seriously. He's giving us the friend discount.
That's all I have.
I
Unless
have
you
a
have any
motion?
questions.
Refer to sponsor.
Motion by Al to refer to sponsor. Do I have a second by Mike? All those in favor for refer to sponsor? Unanimous. Thanks for coming back, Reno. I appreciate it. And to be honest with you, I think because of our discussion, I think it actually did get cleaned up.
Yeah.
In our meeting, debated it quite a bit on Monday night, so
Yeah.
we're on the same page now.
Reno, thanks for coming back.
Thank you. All right, next item on the agenda, I have it listed as Highway Department, but Mike is coming in as well, the town engineer, because to be honest with you, this is hand in hand between the two departments.
Just do my two articles first, or?
I don't care, you guys do it, it's your show, you do whatever you want.
Yeah, the first two articles listed.
Are his, then Scotty, so we got 28 and 29 for you, Scotty?
Yeah, for once, Scotty isn't the expensive one.
Oh, yeah, right.
Yes, he is, that's why he's here.
Okay, Article 28, this is for $190,000 for a new truck and plowing, machinery, sanding, hauling, all that kind of stuff.
Yep. 1996 truck. It's done its time. The frame issues, amongst a million other issues, but it's time for it to be replaced. With frame issues, I really can't register it, and I mean, I could fix it, but it's thousands to fix that.
Yep.
So,
And that is something that's been on your capital plan right now?
yes.
Yep, and we've been forecasting this for a while,
Yep.
so.
Move favorable, Mr. Chairman.
A motion for favorable recommendation by Bobby. Do I have a second by Al? Any other discussion?
Straightforward.
All those in favor for a favorable recommendation, Article 28?
Just for the record, the 5 questions and the cut sheets were given to Paul to post on our website today.
Okay, you did get those then? Okay.
We got them,
Okay.
so that way, any
sorry it took
town
so
meeting members, at least we got them. It's not quite exactly a month ahead, but it's close.
Yeah, well, it takes a while to get the quotes. I was a little behind on it.
Yep.
All right, Article 29, this article is for, in the amount of $180,000 for a sidewalk tractor.
Yeah, the same kind of issue. It's an older tractor. It's not capable of doing the work anymore, and actually, the last few years, we've really struggled to get the sidewalks cleared for school in the morning and things like that. This is strictly a sidewalk tractor. This is not a summertime tool, strictly sidewalk tracks, made to go through anything. It's just not cutting it anymore.
This is the one so the kids get to walk to school on the sidewalks.
Yes, and we've brought this machine down to just running a V-plow, which is a very messy operation. That's old school, we just can't do that anymore. If we go ahead with this, we'll be buying a newer machine that has a snow blower, and it's gonna just get the job done twice as nice and efficient.
And it's been approved by the capital committee?
Still 180?
Yes, it may drop a little.
No, but I'm just saying, we had budgeted it at 180.
He's just saying it's dropping, don't interrupt him.
Oh.
Drop by $1,000.
A little bit, he
I
said.
have a choice of two machines.
This is Scott. He's gonna put it at 180 and give us back $50.
right.
Oh, come on.
Has this been the subcommittee level?
It's just, there's a choice of two machines that I'm looking at, so,
that's cool.
depending which one we go at, but
No, it's
180 would be
subcommittee.
the top.
How about subcommittee?
Move favorable, Mr. Chairman.
Motion by Bobby for a favorable recommendation on Article 29. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Andy. All those in favor for favorable recommendation for Article 29? Unanimous. All right, this is gonna be a
Okay.
long road.
We don't like you.
Why don't, I don't know which article it is.
Article 30 is,
Let's skip
30
the
is stormwater.
Skip the stormwater last, if that's okay?
certainly, so you want
Mr.
to...
Chairman, real quick, Scott, if you get this money, do you get this sidewalk plow in time for this season?
I will get it the day after, it'll be ordered, it'll be there within a week.
Okay.
Some in stock, so. Truck a little longer, but it's tractor right away.
How many sidewalk plows does this give us then?
It gives us 3 working, and we have one we've been using for parts for the one that I'm getting rid of that still runs, but we don't really use it because it's just not
Okay.
efficient enough for us.
I heard rumors you've updated the capital plan with Zach.
I have, and the copy you sent me is different, so Zach has the real one.
Can I have the new one? Oh, on the town account? I gotta get to Andy to get access to it, 'cause somehow it's freezing yet.
Yeah, mine's freezing too.
Okay, let me look, 'cause I may,
On the drive, right?
You're obviously on the block list.
yeah, no kidding.
All right, so I don't care which one you guys, you got 30 and 31, whatever you want to do.
Let's do the Milford Palmer first.
Okay, sure.
That'll be quick and easy.
All right, so that is Article 31. There's just some discussion points.
Where are the 5 questions being posted on the website, do you know?
Yeah, let's do something. Is this the day of the bridge?
Paul Labo sent a note saying, here's where it is.
Are they posted on the website already, the 5 questions?
Damn,
Any work to one.
Okay.
100 years.
Shelley made
Right, but I'm, for the general public, I'm wondering.
We had some inspections done on it,
We'll have to ask Andy. Would you talk to Andy and get it posted up so town meeting?
Used to go fishing on that dam.
Zach's already
Used
on
to go
that.
fishing.
Everything will be up for you.
Yeah, I tie the line on the railing, throw the line in, come back in the morning, pick up the fish.
For supper.
Breakfast, on pub.
Significant
Remember Hon Pop?
hazard potential.
Yeah, I got a copy, I'll take it all.
Did we look at this
All right,
last year
Mike.
and it was fine?
Okay, ready?
Yep.
All right, Milford Pond Dam, also referred to or known as Cedar Swamp Pond Dam. I think we changed the swamp name itself, but I believe the state still refers to the dam as Cedar Swamp Pond Dam. That's how it's referenced in the reports.
It hurts tourism with the swamp.
Yeah. So this dam is classified as a significant hazard potential. That's how they rate dams, basically what's downgrading of the dam. If it was ever to let go, how much will that impact?
So that's the risk, not the condition.
Correct. That's just the, yes, that's the risk.
The one right
So once it's classified as such, it's required to undergo inspections every 5 years, and that's required by the state.
Now, this isn't the dam at,
Pheno Field.
the Fina Field, right?
Yeah, I was asking, where is this?
The Milford Pond Dam, Pheno Field.
Field.
Back of Pheno Field, like if you want to walk across, you
bridge?
can right
Yep.
by
Oh,
it.
with that.
The outlet of the entire swamp.
Yeah, go to the Italian.
If you go to the vets.
That's where the Italian vets.
Italian vets,
Yes, the shortcut to go to the vets.
shortcut, okay.
Okay, so there.
Right, so the Department of Conservation and Recreation, DCR, they issued an order in March 2016 to conduct safety Phase 1 inspection. That was done, and an evaluation and report was submitted to the town, or before I got here, Weston and Sampson was hired to perform that inspection. They performed the Phase 1 inspection and evaluation report, and prepared that document and sent it off to us and the state. So in that report, the dam was found to be in fair condition. So in the report, there's several findings, they're listed here. Excessive woody vegetation on the embankments, hydraulic capacity of the structure itself is uncertain because it hasn't been
Never been
evaluated. Well, it's used every day, the water flows over it, but
Yeah.
then you forget about it until something happens. So the hydraulic capacity of the structure and dam is uncertain and updated. Hydraulic and hydrologic analysis should be performed. The low-level bypass gates are inoperable, they don't work.
Oh, that's what I was thinking.
The concrete for the entire structure, the spillway wear, the bridge supports, and the walls are showing deterioration and should be further inspected by a structural engineer, sorry. The condition of the flashboards and supports should be addressed and evaluated. And that's all in the findings that was submitted and prepared. So there's an article on special town meeting this October for $50,000. The article is to fund the Phase 2 inspection and evaluation of those items, basically, that were the findings. And take it one step further, and after all the analysis and the inspection is done, we're actually gonna do the design work with the $50,000.
Can I just ask you a quick question on levels of condition? Is this one of those, there's like 9 levels, or is it good, fair, poor?
Yeah, so I had mentioned that it's in fair condition,
Yeah.
and that's how it's classified. And that's on a rating, I believe the report is 1 to 5, and it's probably at a 3.
Okay.
Yeah,
Phil? Yep.
yeah. Mike, I realize we're doing, evaluations, and then we're gonna go to design. But do you have some sense as to what the total cost of this project may be?
Yes.
That's what I kinda wanna get to.
Yeah, so at the end, I was gonna refer back to, when I was in here a couple months ago, I referenced an amount of $188,000 has been in the capital plan. So I decided, after further evaluation of the Phase 1 report, there were too many asterisks in there until this work is done to give us a real accurate number for construction. So I decided to break it up, and talking with Scott, we broke it up into 2, 50,000 for now, so to speak, do this evaluation, do the engineering, solicit the costs, and then we'll have a better understanding of what the actual cost is. However, in the Phase 1 report, they have to assess, in their assessment, they do put a number for repairs to bring the structure up in, to good condition.
Yeah, so we're
Rate
looking at,
number 5, and there's $188,000 in it.
so we're looking at 200 to 300,000 somewhere. Not to put a number on you, but. I
Yeah,
just wanted to-
well, I don't think it's gonna be 3.
No, I think it's
You know,
gonna be 3.
no.
3 million. Not 2
Yeah.
or 3 million.
Throw his head in it.
Yeah, I'm talking tens of millions.
So we had 188 this year.
Yes,
If we do 50 this year, now, I heard you say this is for design,
yes.
but then you said I'm gonna do some work, so I'm confused.
No.
Does the 50 actually get me anything like weeds cleared or anything, or is it just the study?
It's just the study to come up with specification and design plans and specification that'll take that right to construction.
Now, the next piece, gut feel, you're saying won't be 3. Do you mean 3 including this 50, or 3 more?
No, the 3 came from that side. I think we're still gonna be around $200,000.
On top of the 50?
No, including this 50.
Mike, I
So
like
it's
your
another
number.
150 for
Unless
next
the
year.
first phase, unless the Phase 1 evaluation
No,
report.
no, Mike, if the world
Yeah.
comes to an end, but
Yes.
you're saying
Next year, you're
plan
gonna
on
want
150
$150,000.
next
Yes.
year? Okay.
Correct.
And that is the time frame that we'd probably be looking at is next year?
Yes, yep.
Okay, great.
Yep, rather than grabbing the 188 and then let it sit
That's fine, I
there.
just wasn't sure if this
Yeah.
study's gonna take a long period of time, and if we would be ready in 1 year
I
to be
want-
able to do it.
Once approved, I want to engage the services. Scotty and I will work together and,
Mr. Chairman?
Absolutely.
Are we solely responsible for doing this dam? There's no state funds that we can try to tap into do this?
the state funds for the repair of the dam, not that I'm aware of, but
Yeah, I'm just wondering, they're the ones that are monitoring the dams though, right? And they're the ones that we have to report to?
they
and
send
all?
us, DCR sent us an order to do the inspection,
But they
yes.
don't come forward with any funding to help us fix a dam?
Not that I'm aware
Yeah,
of.
not that I'm aware of right now, but you never know. It could be something.
Okay.
We'll look for that, definitely.
Chairman,
Mr. DeVito?
if I may. Would I be wrong if I said that the purpose of that dam, at least at one point in time, was to regulate the water flow over the dam into, for lack of a better term, the head of the Charles River? Because I believe there are gates on that were supposed to, at least one time, operated, and their function was to regulate the flow. Would I be wrong in that sense?
No, the dam is there to regulate the water flow
Okay.
in
And
certain instances, such as hurricanes, large floods, large
The
events.
new dam will accommodate that as well, correct?
Yeah, we're not talking replacing the dam, we're talking modifying and just bringing it up to good condition.
Who is responsible to determine when those gates are opened and closed, and what criteria do they use to make that determination?
You would never open the gates for any reason except for work.
Go for work, to draw down, sometimes you can draw down the water in a large event, like a large hurricane that was just taking place.
No, but it's a
Flash
legitimate
floods.
question. Who decides?
We do.
Who's we?
We,
Highway department?
No, the town would have to decide that.
You
Obviously,
shut the Charles River off, is that what you?
I need a name, I'm looking for a name,
I don't think
or a
any-
department head, or a department head.
But I don't
It's
think,
a
I've
fair
never heard of
question.
that happening.
No, it's a good question.
Fair question.
We're building in controls.
Right,
Who flips the switch?
and what criteria is used in what circumstance?
Right, no, Bobby, I think you got a great question. Who flips the switch?
I think it would be the head of I think, and I'm gonna give credit here, that is the fire chief, because he's the head of the FEMA, right?
Right,
Not the FEMA, the emergency management, thank you. That's what I thought too, but I will give credit to the, Mr. Rudden in the back.
So also in this
Fire
next,
chief?
What's that?
Is the fire chief?
I would say he is in charge of that. I mean, but I would think if we got in a situation that was gonna be that catastrophic, that some other form would be telling us to do it, whether it be the Army Corps of Engineers or whoever.
In your
'Cause I don't
history,
think, we're not just gonna empty a pond for no reason.
in your history with the town, has it ever been
No,
raised and lowered?
no, and that's why it
Then why
doesn't
do
work.
we have it?
that's why it doesn't, that's why it doesn't
Another
work.
dumb question, I'm sorry.
Well, every dam has one in town.
They
pretty
do?
much, yes. Yeah, Louisa Lake has one that we just did work on, and I don't know whether.
And who determines when that gate is raised and lowered?
Same person.
I know, I exercise the gate once a year.
That's
We
a new
open it,
job.
we close it once a year.
That's good.
New elected
Not the one
positions
that's
working.
working. I thought it was broken now.
So the good thing is, in this next phase, we have to come up with an operating and maintenance program for that day.
Perfect.
There.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes,
Bob is
before town
willing to do the
meeting.
gate.
We need to answer that question, I understand.
Part-time job.
It's something he wants to do.
The gatekeeper.
The gatekeeper.
I
There you
want an
go.
electric, I want an electric.
I was gonna say,
Last time they were asking who
if
the
you
gatekeeper
would
was.
agree before town meeting to find out and confirm, because
Yes.
it's easy to say, it's chief so-and-so. But we want to
not
make
here
sure
yet.
that the chief agrees. That's all. Because that question's going to come up to say, okay, we got this great button. Who pushes the button? Then we can ask them, what criteria do you use? Because that's Bobby's other question. What criteria do you use to push the button? Cool.
You have a lot of liability by pushing that button, too.
Oh, yeah.
Any other discussion?
I'm not qualified.
Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Motion for a favorable recommendation by Mr. Korea. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Jerry. All those in favor?
No question.
Unanimous. All right,
Let's go. Closing now.
30.
Is this the last one tonight?
That was the easy one.
We're close. This one isn't fun, though.
Jerry. One's without numbers and one's still, there's still three we have to go over.
This is the one
This
that's
big money,
49.
big money.
Glad you backed me off that 300,000.
Yes, this is why we don't like Mike.
Service is only allowed, is it by law?
Don't take it personal, but
Tax rate and transfer to state.
anybody who wants this much money, we don't like you.
I have a real problem with it.
One more dam.
Oh, no, this whole, this is,
Oh, yeah.
I just wanna know what happens if we don't do it. Is there no enforcement? 36 and 35. I realize that there's nobody to enforce this.
No, we're.
Because you gotta.
Make sure you qualify that, you didn't eliminate it.
We'd be here all night.
Plus, it's nothing.
Oh, it's 68%.
It still exists though, doesn't
Yeah, but all the people that came up with this, it's not.
Alrighty, here we are. So, obviously, I've been coming to you guys with stormwater funding every year, pretty much for the last 12 years. I've talked about the future of stormwater and the new MS4 permit and how expensive it's gonna be, and we've talked about numbers in the past. I'm pretty sure we're all aware of this at this point. Well, it's happening. It's finally here, it's finally approved, and it's finally happening. So you'll see that we're already asking for the 400,000 the first year. I'm gonna let Mike explain a little more detail about it for you. But it's gonna just, this is for 20 years now, and it's gonna be more than 400. So, it's something we have to do, obviously, we can't say no, it's mandated. It's something I think, going forward, we need to work together as a town in this. It's not just me and Mike, because this is big. And you guys need to work on it, the selectmen need to be involved in this. As a town, we need to deal with this. I just don't think it would be right for me and Mike to handle something this big. So I would just hope that we get that kind of cooperation going forward, and, you know, maybe even have a FinCom member involved in our meetings and going to the things we have to go to, you know, for informational reasons and anything.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more, and just a quick sidetrack, I think because of the size of this project, and when we were talking, we had a meeting, and Chairman Walsh was there, and then Rick and Zach were there, and we were talking about the enormity of this process and having just a couple people on it. We need a team. We need consultants. We need members of other boards. We need to try to do everything we can to have as much information about this as possible, so that we're not doing any more than we need to do, that we're meeting, I don't want to say bare minimums, but to be honest with you, I'm not looking to go above and beyond here. 40 million is already a big enough number, okay? So we want to do what we need to do in order to be able to stay within the guidelines that are set out by the permit, and then, you know, just grin and bear it, basically, is what it comes down to.
Yes.
See what kind of monies are available and that kind of stuff for us every time. Maybe it's not this year, maybe next year, and just constantly stay on top of it, because it's a project.
How are other towns dealing with this? I mean, we've been lucky that we've had a few shekels every year left over. But there's towns around us who have nothing left over. How are they dealing with numbers, 10, 20, 40 million?
Same way we are, as best we can.
Mr. Korea?
You know, it's,
I have a question.
I visited Minden, and they just had a meeting about it. They're just now starting to look at phase one. They're not, we're way down the road.
We are way
farther.
ahead because we're on the Charles River and we've been dealing with this for, I think, 12, 13 years now.
But the other thing that I found out here is they've hired a law firm in Pocasset to work with them on this. Because a town like Mendon, if they get hit with this kind of project fee, they're broke. They'll go bankrupt upside down.
This is
And-
not new.
Huh?
This is not new.
No, but, wait a minute, Chris brought out the real point,
It goes
which
back
is,
a long time.
we want to do what we have to. But
Absolutely.
how is it that a town next to us is at phase one and we're already, why are we ahead?
They're not even at phase one, they're just beginning the
They
discussion.
still are in the same permit we are, it's just they haven't had to do anything to the, what we've had to do in the last few years. We're ahead of the game because we were the guinea pigs, basically. Us, Franklin, and Bellingham.
But is Franklin and Bellingham also
Franklin-
budgeting this kind of
Franklin's
money?
way ahead of the game.
Oh, yeah.
They are above and beyond us. They have already done things ahead of time, knowing this is coming. They're a lot bigger town, politically in town hall than we are. They're a lot bigger than us.
There are 3,000 more people.
They have
I
an
wouldn't say that's a
engineering
lot
department
bigger.
that's 10
Their
people.
budget's not more than a couple
We
million.
have Mike.
And you don't like me.
Part of their engineering.
I'd like you
department-
more if you don't spend this money.
Part of their engineering department focuses on just stormwater. That's what they do.
Okay.
So, I mean, they're ahead in a few ways.
Scott, I just want to make sure, like Chris said, that we're not racing ahead and spending it before we have
Oh,
to.
no, we're not doing
I agree with that also. That, let's do what we need to.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Scott, is there any responsibility for commercial businesses as part of this? This 40 million is part of
40
this?
million
Or
is
do we
just
have
us.
commercial businesses who are part of this 40 million?
They have their own money to spend also. Their own bill they're gonna have to spend. We're not, the 40 mil is just within.
The town of Milford?
For the
And
infrastructure.
other
fund.
commercial businesses who, have this stormwater issue are getting assessed as well? Do you know of any other commercial businesses in Milford who are dealing with this?
Yeah, I don't know, anything else,
Yeah, they're
I
not,
think it's a surprise for them. It's gonna be a huge surprise.
yeah, it's,
Well, yeah, I'm just trying to see that if this is us in totality, or if do we have commercial businesses who contributed to this who should be assessed a piece?
well, that's gonna be, at some point, how we're gonna pay for it. As a community, we're gonna have to determine, it has to come from the people that live in the town and have businesses in the town, not through taxes or however it is. It's gonna be from them, correct? So you have to figure out, are we gonna charge the commercial people more because they have more parking and impervious? I mean, but that's later on down the road.
Yep.
They're not doing that
They're not
now.
part of this now, okay, all right, thanks.
Newer sites designed to accommodate and implement BMPs, best management practices. So they spend the money in the infrastructure if they're building now or have built in
So
the
they're
last 10
required to
years.
do something now to prevent this?
Well, to help them out later,
Later.
yeah.
But they have to upgrade their properties also to meet the requirements, right?
They backed off of that
Oh,
at
they
this
did?
point, I believe, yep.
What are we trying to
Okay.
fix?
All right, thank you, guys, thank you.
I apologize, we keep interrupting you, but we have just so many questions about
Yeah,
this.
why
It's
don't you
not-
let Mike?
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's what I mean.
I'll just go through this quickly. Once again, stormwater, we all know it's here from the EPA. It's referred to as a general permit from the EPA, and it's referred to as the stormwater discharge from small municipal separate storm sewer systems. So that's where the MS4 comes from. So basically what that is saying is that you need a general permit to allow water to flow out of your existing drainage systems and outfalls to drain into the waters of the United States or the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. The town has been in compliance with Phase 1 of this permit since 2003. Phase 2 of the permit has been effective since July 1, 2018, so obviously we're currently in the first year. The Phase 2 permit and regulation requires that the town reduce the pollutant load to the wetlands and the waterways. The pollutant is primarily phosphorus, and the waterway that they're really concerned about is the Charles River. So the EPA has the Charles River labeled as an impaired water. Once you have an impaired water, from the EPA standpoint, they put a total maximum daily load, TMDL, you'll hear quite a bit, of total maximum daily load of that pollutant, whatever they deem. It's not all waters are impaired by phosphorus. Some is by nitrogen or nitrates and E. coli and things of that nature. Not that we don't have any of that probably, but that's not what, the TMDL is for phosphorus. So once the TMDL is assigned to the waterways, in this case it's phosphorus, they want us to reduce that by 41.2% over the next 20 years. So that's basically what this permit does, reduce the phosphorus to the Charles coming out of Milford by 41.2% over 20 years. You had mentioned the estimated cost is over $40 million over the 20 years. So the first 5 years of this project is essentially the planning and designing phase of the 20-year permit. So those are really referred to as non-structural BMPs, best management practices. So there's all different kinds of things or items that we have to address and meet. Everything's all outlined in the permit. There are things like completing the mapping, which we've done a ton of already, mapping all the outfalls in the town, continue testing and sampling the runoff, analyzing the existing stormwater system at a higher level, public education. They even want you to reach out to the different audiences like industrial, commercial, residential users. Even they have a class in there for pet owners, educate them a little bit about the waste. I mean, it's all in there. Establishing an illicit discharge detection and elimination program, that's a pretty big one, IDDE. So basically, finding any illicit discharges and eliminating them, and how you're gonna do that. Implementing a stormwater management program, even possible modifications to our current zoning we may have to do, which incorporates what's referred to as LID, low-impact development procedures. Let's see, creating programs to meet minimum control standards, which are all outlined in the permit. So all of these items, once again, are set forth in the EPA's regulations, and it's very prescriptive. So then the following 15 years is years 6 through 20, and it's implementation of the first five-year program that we put together. And that's what I would refer to as, that's where the larger money's spent. That's where the $40 million comes into play. That's where we're actually gonna be building detention basins, constructed wetlands, things of that nature, and those are referred to as structural BMPs.
Do you consider us in year one now?
Excuse me?
What year are we in now?
Year one, we're in year one.
Okay.
Yep, started July.
Just want to make sure, because we've been talking about this for many years, I want to make sure this is.
Well, it was supposed to happen last year, then they went to court and they put a stay on it, but they removed the stay. It's still in some type of litigation, so we still don't know 100% what the outcome's gonna be, but
That was going to be one of my questions, but I'll let you finish.
so we have no choice but to continue on. As we know, there's an article on the special town meeting in October for $400,000. Scotty referenced that. And obviously, the funding is to continue the town efforts to meet the requirements set forth in the EPA's general permit and MS4s, and that's all gonna be mostly all consultant work. Capital planning has the $1.5 million for the first 5-year program. That's all been in the capital plan. Once again, the $40 million. And just, once again, this permit will be a community-wide effort in terms of planning, public education, implementation, and financial. That's it.
Mr. Chairman,
Absolutely.
can we bond this? If we have to do this type of a project?
I think probably at some point, I'm sure we could, depending on, once again, we won't even be looking at this for 4 years.
Right.
So unless it found something that one particular project is a huge amount, but it doesn't sound like that. It sounds like it's such a long period of time. I can't imagine that 40 million is gonna be,
Well, I don't know what the
One big
project's gonna
project.
be though, right?
well, that's the other thing. I mean, that's why I think it's questionable. I think you always could, but,
Redo the drainage or
yeah.
whatever.
But I think it's just gonna constantly be happening. It's not gonna be a one-time event.
It's got it all planned ahead of time,
Yep.
best we can to get it.
Yeah. So I guess if something was a huge amount, I'm sure you could bond it, but I can't,
Yeah.
I think you just tackle that when you get to it.
I just think if we keep adding $2-3 million to annual capital planning, it's gonna be unsustainable that way.
Sure. We almost have to set up our own fund for it, to be honest with you, is what we're gonna end up doing.
I had 2 questions. What is the objective of this program? I read through pages and pages of federal regulations, and I have them up on my screen right now. And Mr. Schiavi says it's the elimination of phosphorus is the objective. But I want to know who checked the Charles River when this project started? What was the level of phosphorus in this area? And what is it today, 2018? And why are we just forging ahead with monies after monies? We don't even know what the status of the Charles River is. Of course, I haven't seen it anywhere. Nobody's given me a report. I haven't seen anybody from the EPA. And furthermore, I'm not so comfortable that this is a sustainable program under the current administration in Washington. The EPA has, 2/3 of it has been eliminated, literally eliminated. And what concerns me immensely is that we start down this road at $400,000, okay? And then we spend another $400,000, and then someone says, oh, by the way, that department was eliminated in Washington last week. And all bets are off. And until someone goes to Washington and said, are we compelled to do something? What are we compelled to do? And what are the consequences if we don't? This is a commitment that could just literally break every town around here. And the other thing, you're asking for $400,000 tonight. And I guess I'm just now getting clarification. We're gonna do a consulting study for $400,000. Is that what I'm understanding? Engineering? We're not gonna do any construction or anything like that.
No construction, correct.
That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money.
Yep.
I mean, we've got, I'll just give you one example. It's an ongoing project with the acquisition of the water company. And all things considered, we spent a lot of money on legal fees and consulting to get to the water company. $400,000 in 1 year of engineering? That's an insurmountable number. And I'm not comfortable that the prior administration plus the prior administration at the state level is still pushing this issue. Number one, tell me what's wrong with the Charles River. I don't think there's anything wrong with the Charles River, because Bob and I and Phil have sat in sewer committee meetings, and they tell me the water coming out of the sewer department after they take it in is cleaner than the water that went in.
That's just the sewer department though, Jerry, that's not the runoff.
Now,
Okay, but
Jerry, everything you're bringing up is an excellent point, but that's more the argument for the courtroom than for here, because here we're mandated to do it. But you did bring up a very good point that, if you don't mind, I'd like to ask, what is our punishment for not doing this? Is it $400,000?
$5,000 a day, we've been told.
Okay, well, that's what I'm asking.
25 a day?
$5,000 a day.
Okay.
Hold on.
okay, now,
Because it's 2.6 million a year.
I don't see that anywhere in any of the
Well,
regulations.
that's what we've been told in separate meetings, and we asked that question, because we know that question's coming
That was a
every
good
time,
point, Jerry.
so-
To be honest with you, you brought up that, hey, what if we don't do it?
They have,
I don't think everybody's gonna be able to do this, to be quite honest. And I don't wanna be the town that holds the flag, okay, and has a hole in our checkbook because we were the one that charged up the hill first.
Yeah, I wouldn't consider us the ones charging up the hill first, but
And at $25,000
been doing a real
day.
good job at it, and there's some behind us, and there's some people in front of us.
Bobby.
I
Franklin,
think Jerry raised the point. Do you have the facts and figures, maybe not here tonight? What is the current level of phosphorus in the Charles River? If you don't have it with you, I completely understand. And what does a 41, I'll say 50% reduction amount to? Is it a big number? I mean, that might tell us how much money we've got to spend in the future.
I just think 400,000 is
Those figures are available?
yeah, the figures are available, but the TMDL, the total maximum daily load that the EPA has set on the Charles River,
Yeah.
is 3,552 pounds per year.
3,552 per year?
Pounds per year, and then you can
Okay.
convert that,
We measure
That's the
that.
target.
excuse me?
That's the target?
Yeah, well, no,
That's the
yeah,
acceptable level.
yeah, no, the current load is 3,550,
Current load,
I'm
okay,
sorry.
I'm
the-
sorry, it's my error.
Yes. So the current is 3,552 pounds per year. No, and that was my errors too. So then they're setting a total maximum daily load down to 2,090 pounds per year.
All right, let me ask two questions. First off,
41.2% reduction, down to
Right.
1,462
pounds per year
Who's doing the measuring?
is what we have to reduce.
so what do? They go to the Milford town line, and they go at the end of the Milford line, and they measure the phosphorus at that
Right.
point, and then they go to the Bellingham line, and the difference between the two is how much Bellingham
Right,
put
so
in,
that,
and...
that's one of
Okay.
the issues I've always asked from day one to myself, like, how do we know, where is this phosphorus? What do we, but Basically, they model it.
Yeah.
With the amount of impervious and how much impervious is contributed, and they run the numbers. That doesn't mean they haven't sampled the river either.
Yeah.
They haven't sampled it every foot, they haven't sampled it
I
every,
think in every town line,
every
it
mile.
would be what responsible town.
But
And
they
let me ask
also,
you-
they also, but it's a model, and it's a scientist, and it's engineers, and they didn't
What
just
if in
slap
two-
the number
What if
together.
in 2
But I
years, we
understand-
go down 40% because we found this magical drain that was draining it in?
Right.
Okay?
No.
Are we done?
So that's what I've always, that's the way I envision this over the next 5 years in the planning stage, is we go where it's gonna be effective, first of all. We don't wanna keep spending, we don't wanna just spend money just to spend money and appease them as well.
Yep.
Which, in some case, we may be doing that to some degree.
Yep.
But I wanna go where we find the
Bang for the
problems.
buck.
And if we
Yes.
find, like, say this magic drain that's doing all the phosphorus, and we cut it by 40%, do we just, we're done?
Well, unless it's so which is it? Do we have a hard number we have to meet, and then we figured out the percentage that the current number has to be reduced, or are they coming up with a reduced number, which you never meet because you always have to be 40% less? Is there a hard number for Milford that we have to meet?
We have a hard number set by the EPA.
Okay, so it's 1,000 whatever pounds per year.
But you could probably argue the point that we don't know if that's actually in the river or not, because you're not testing it
They're not measuring
every
it,
50 feet.
they're modeling,
It's from a
and
model.
estimating
Some
that we're
model,
gonna
and
have.
they gave Milford a number that we have to get to.
So then when you implement these BMPs, they give you credit for those BMPs, even the non-structural BMPs. For the first 5 years,
What's a
they're
BMP, I'm
What's the
sorry?
BMP?
best management practice, or best management practices. So you have non-structural, which are public education, putting plans in place, educating even the employees that run the facilities, town facilities, all that is the non-structural BMPs. And I think they give us like 15% credit for that.
So let me get this right. So if this is based on a model, even if we find the magic pipe and shut it off, we only get 10 credits or 50, whatever, I'm just using it. So it really doesn't even matter
Yes,
if we
it-
find what the problem is.
Unless we can prove that by testing. And that's
Okay.
part of this program as well, is that we're gonna have our own consultants testing specifically. So we have baselines and we have numbers.
All right, that makes sense.
And that's where I'm going, because when I think of, you're mentioning there's a prescriptive permit. Normally, when I think of prescriptive methods, the EPA 500 series, drinking water, 600 series,
Yep.
wastewater, 8270 is groundwater. Now, we know that the EPA has said for 8270, here are the levels, here is the method that they're going to use to test. So my fundamental question is, do we know, is there a 600 series or an 8000 series method for this?
To meet what they want us to meet, is that
Well,
what?
just to establish a baseline, because what I'm worried about is what Chris said. Okay, I would rather know if it was groundwater, 8270. We can pay somebody to take a water sample, run 8270, and tell us,
Yes,
at the beginning of Milford,
yes.
it is X.
That's
At
the
the end of Milford, it's Y. Okay, and then when we do things,
my
you
point.
turn
You
around
don't
and say,
just get a credit.
hey, we're already 30% down or something, versus them saying, the model.
Yeah.
You know, hoochie coochie model says. No, I'd rather deal with scientific data.
I agree with you, but I don't believe the permit is written that way.
But how do they test? They don't?
They've already done, in their mind, they've already done enough testing and modeling to set those numbers, and we have to adhere to
Well,
it.
then,
I don't disagree with you.
could we look up to find
But-
out what the test is for phosphorus that the EPA accepts? I can do it at my work, but I'd rather do it officially. And then, yeah, it should be in the Federal Register, but I'm saying, go find out, and then if it costs us, what, $300-400 a sample at most? I think those two numbers would be very informative
This regulation goes back. to
versus somebody in Washington
So I
saying,
can get a
our
little more-
model says.
I can get a little more information on the test.
Thank you.
Two things, Mr. Chairman. Number one, I think this is a very, very interesting and certainly very detailed requirement that's being foisted upon us. So I would suggest, with your approval, that we ask these gentlemen to come back at some point in the future, in the winter, so we can spend the time to debate this and learn more of what this entails. That said, Mr. Chairman, in my view, our hands are tied right now. So with that, I would make a motion that I would make a motion for a favorable recommendation for Article 31, as presented by these two gentlemen.
Second.
It was Article 30. right?
Is it 30? Mine says 31.
30. 31 was the dam we just finished.
So I have a motion by Bobby for a favorable recommendation on Article 30 with a second by Al. Any other discussion?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, Phil?
Mike, you started to mention Franklin, and, you know, I am curious, because I think Jerry had a very good point. I mean, the financial requirement for municipalities is huge. I mean, towns aren't gonna do this. How's it gonna happen? So I am curious as to what other towns are actually doing Phase 2, and what is Franklin doing, for example? Because, you know, it just seems like it's unrealistic for communities to take on this project.
Mr. Chairman, one more comment.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, so do you know of any other towns? That's the question.
Mr. Chairman?
The three towns that we've been associated with in the regional approach, Medway, I've only been associated with Franklin, Medway, and Bellingham was initially part of that, but they are kind of going out on their own type deal. With respect to, we were in a regional program, evaluating it from a regional base.
But have any towns appropriated monies for Phase 2?
I think they're all doing it now. That's what they're doing. I
See, that's the type of information we could have.
That
at a future
would
meeting,
that would be
yeah.
very helpful,
No, you
because
need to know that.
And Scotty,
because Jerry made a good point. I don't want to really be first in line if this never happens.
But I know
The
Franklin's
other
been
thing-
looking into a utility and things of that nature, so, you know, that may be a future thing.
Okay.
Yep,
Phil,
Jerry?
as a follow-up to that, we're talking about Milford spending $400,000 on consulting engineering. Is Franklin spending another $400,000 to do the same kind of information? Bellingham doing, when are we gonna get our heads together and say, let's hire one engineering firm and split the costs for the whole region?
We've already done that. We had a grant, that we entered into 4 or 5 years ago, and it was about regionalization, and we've discussed that, and that is a possibility,
Because I'm sitting here looking at, I just happened to hear on the radio that Mendon was holding a hearing, and I went over, and they have an engineering firm out of Pocasset, they've already hired one. And why aren't we tagging along, or, because the engineering findings are the same for everybody. If there's 10 towns along the Charles River, the engineering discovery and findings are the same. I don't want to pay 10 different engineering firms, or the same engineering firms, fees from 10 different towns. So let's get our heads together and
In
get this
certain things,
on.
we have studied this, and we've gone over this, and we've studied this with Franklin and Medway, we actually did this. And, there are ways of saving money, and that's obviously we're gonna do in the future, going forward, of course we are. At this point, we don't really know what to expect yet, so we don't know what we can regional, you know.
I
do that.
concur with Mr. DeVita that we need a regular update on this. How much, where
We
we
need to
going?
dedicate some time to it, because it raises the question, if we're cleaning the Charles River up, and we're at the head of the Charles River, by the time it gets to Franklin, it's all clean. Right?
And they ought to help us pay the bill.
Exactly. But we've got a motion to
one
the
last
floor
question.
Thank you.
The new Zach, Mike, Scotty capital plan, does it change the 400,000 that we had for next year and the 200,000 for 3 years after?
All that's under engineering, so that stays 400 a year, 5 years.
Oh, it does change, because we had 400, then dropping to 200.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Is this drop to
It's
200?
1.5 over the next 5, so it's 4, 4, 3, 2, and 2. I think
all
if
of that is
adds-
engineering.
If that adds up.
That's under engineering.
No, I just want to know, because we had 44222. You're just saying it's
Okay.
44322.
Well, I could be off by 1, but
Mike,
it's-
I
it
just
adds
wanna-
up to 1.5.
I just want to get a feeling,
that
is it
hasn't-
4 across, but no? Okay.
It's-
Mike, yep.
So you mentioned a 25,000 a day fine. When would they start implementing that? I'm wondering if we don't approve this now, do we start getting the fine this winter? Do we start getting
We do
it?
have to have our plan in by a certain date, so.
What's the date?
Well, the notice of intent's going in by the end of this week,
That has
which
to be
you have to.
Would they get mad if we plan a year from now to do something?
10 years from now, do they say?
I'm just saying, a lot of times they want a plan, and if you say, I'm not gonna do it in 18, I'm gonna do it in 19, is that legit, and it saves us $400,000 1 year?
Well, it doesn't, because then you're gonna get it the next year,
Yeah.
but Chairman Walsh.
You know, to Jerry's point, one of the concerns that I have, and I spoke about this the other night at the selectmen's meeting when these gentlemen were in or the week before, is that for those of us who were around when gasoline stations became dirty in the early 70s, and all this dirt was dug up out of the ground and billions and billions of dollars were spent sending it out to the middle of New York, and they spread it on landfills. And these companies, insurance companies and oil companies and private vendors were spending this money because the EPA said they had to. And then all of a sudden down the road, somebody from the EPA said, well, if we're putting that dirt on the land and it's airing itself out, why don't we just put the dirt on the side of the buildings, cover it with plastic, and every so many weeks go down with a backhoe and flip it around. And all that money that was spent to bring all that dirt up to New York. And I have the biggest fear that this is gonna be the same thing. We're gonna get into this project, and I can use as an example of these two gentlemen did a fine job telling us about the new catch basin at the end of Summer Street, what it cost, and what little amount of phosphorus it's actually catching. I see the same thing happening here. We're gonna spend this money in 5 years, 6 years down the road. Somebody else at the EPA is gonna come out and say, you know what? You just don't have to do it this way. You can do it this way after we spent millions. That's my fear.
Oh, very good point, Mike. And actually, we were talking about that the catch basins, they don't want to do them now because they say the bad because about mosquitoes and that kind of stuff. So even in the short period of time from us doing the catch basin to having it completed, now they don't want to do them anymore. So very, very good point. And no, I think it's definitely something, and I think we're going to look to Chairman Walsh to probably set up a committee to look at stormwater that maybe has a FinCom chair, you guys, a selectman, that type of stuff, to really stay on top of that.
That might have to be a whole separate committee.
Yes.
Well, that's my point. That's why I think
saying.
Chairman Walsh is probably, would be a good idea for you to set something up that maybe had a member from our committee, your committee, these two gentlemen, you know, everybody, town council, that really stays on top of this because of the enormity of the project. So, with that being said, I had a motion and a second for favorable recommendation on Article 30. All those in favor?
Oh, I don't know.
Oh, they're grunting. Anybody down?
We still don't like you.
I would like to say no.
Thank you guys very much, and
Thank you.
And you're gonna be seeing a lot more of us,
So
I
I
guess.
just want to let you guys know, at town meeting, there'll be a 10 to 15-minute presentation from a consultant on stormwater. So everybody at town meeting will understand.
Is there a PowerPoint? Can we
Is
get
there
it in
any way you
advance?
can you get that to Paul Abodabo and get it up ahead of time?
I would say
If
yes.
I was a town meeting member and you're talking about something this significant, I may want to watch it once or twice before town meeting and formulate my questions, or at least become,
For website.
well, that's what I'm saying.
Put it up early.
But if it goes to you, you'll get it to Andy or Zach. The skinny Zach is here, and he can get it to Andy.
Everyone's got a name.
So we asked them to do it very, so everybody can understand it, basically.
Yeah,
Is
but
one of you
still-
gonna do it, or is a consultant gonna do it?
consultant.
Consultant will be doing it.
But still, Scotty, something this big, I would personally watch it ahead of time versus for the first time seeing it at town meeting. And if nobody watches it, then at least we've met our responsibility to publish a month ahead before the town meeting. Because if you remember a few years ago, one of the gripes was, the night of town meeting, I get inundated and I get overwhelmed. So now I haven't heard that in a lot, because we're putting stuff up a month ahead, so the town meeting members have an ability to look at it.
And I think that'll answer a lot of questions, hopefully.
Perfect.
So either get it directly to Zach or to Paul, and they'll get it to Andy, and everybody will be happy.
Okay.
Excellent. Thank you guys
Thank
very
you.
much. I really appreciate it, and great job with all the information. Those handouts are very detailed.
Okay, thank you. Have a good night.
Yep. Couple of zoning articles. Article 11 is the next item on the agenda.
Motion to refer to sponsor.
Actually, I just want to say before, with the company is the sponsor, so I don't know if we want to refer to the planning
Or
board.
planning board. Oh, I'm okay with that.
The actual department.
So I have a motion by Al to refer to the planning board, second by Chuck. All those in favor for referring to
Discussion,
planning
real quick.
board? Al, I'm sorry. Yep. Discussion.
I would think that we would want to do a favorable here, only because in the past, when there is a zoning regulation that had a positive financial impact to the town, for instance, the restaurant depot, that zoning recommendation, we gave a favorable. Bringing in or allowing self-service could bring a significant business into town, and I would think that we would want to support that. Those are all my comments.
Yep, good comments.
The only hesitation I have is, for us to vote favorable, I would feel better if we were informed. And maybe I'm the only one, but I don't think I have enough information
To say that
to
self-service is
say,
gonna be a financial benefit to the town.
well, to say anything,
Yeah.
positive or negative. That's my only reason.
Yeah. So I had a motion by Al for refer to sponsor, refer, excuse me, to the planning board.
Planning board.
Thank you. A second by Chuck. Any other discussion?
Is there a planning board recommendation?
Yes, they voted favorable.
They did, huh?
Yes, they did. Yep.
Should me then.
That's a good point. Should have said that. Thank you. Always keeping me on my
If we
toes.
point to the planning board, that's
All right,
favorable.
so all those in favor? Unanimous. Article 12, another zoning article, put in by Mr. Meehan. That was also voted on by the planning board, and they had a favorable recommendation on that as well. Motion to refer to the planning board,
So
anyone?
moved, Mr. Chairman.
Motion by Bobby, second by Chuck to refer to the planning board who had a favorable recommendation. All those in favor? Unanimous. All right, I had Selectmen Article 23 on here, and I do apologize. Diana pointed that out to me. In my old age, I'm forgetting that we already did cover that. That was the median barriers on Route 85. Yep. Stop for a second, everybody.
Finance Committee.
That's it.
Oh, 13 they're passing over, right? That's what he told me.
Are they passing over 13?
That's, I'm sorry, I looked at you like you're supposed to know the board off the top of your head. The building commissioner, they said that they were gonna take more time. That's what he told me about, working with the Board of Health on that article. Because that's what he told me. All right. All right, because that's what he, all right.
Okay.
Thank you, sorry, I should have said that. Thanks for pointing that out, Al. So Selectmen, we have Article 36 left for you guys. So Chairman Walsh and Rick, do you wanna come up, and Zach? and- He's gonna tell us right now.
5, not 36.
Oh, 36 is theirs, 35 is ours.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yes, we do, we're gonna talk about this, because he's gonna talk about 35 as well. Is that in,
Yeah.
it all encompasses, so it's kind of a, 35 and 36 are kind of a mesh of two things.
Paul, did you want to hand out that sheet?
So at this point in time, now obviously we have our recommendations on the entire warrant. Obviously, town meeting, how that goes, we cannot foretell that. So what we're doing here is basing that everything does get passed at town meeting. Obviously, if things do not get passed at town meeting, these numbers are gonna shift, okay? Because those amounts obviously are not gonna be spent. So these, like I said, are under the assumption that these articles are going to be passed.
That's all.
On the money, look at that, okay.
It's kind of an easy way to do
To
it.
the-
Yeah, exactly.
It's a little bit of a shell game. You can
I
always
think-
make it say zero.
I think you work backwards.
Yeah, a little bit.
Maybe.
All right, so I don't know if Chairman's prerogative, do you want to talk mine first, or you want to have Zach go through the numbers? All right.
Awesome. Just wanted to first talk about a couple important developments since the last time we kind of presented the full picture here. Last FinCom meeting, you guys learned that the largest capital item on the warrant is going to be passed over. Just mentioning that purposely again, because it's going to coincide with Article 35. New growth had been submitted now at a much larger, more significant figure than we had been using. Back in January, we used 450,000. It's kind of our classic number, kind of conservative, but also at the same time, a nice fallback in case there is a light number. Throughout the year, we learned from the assessor that it was going to be better than that, but we didn't get a full number, so we jumped to 650. That was the latest version that was handed out and presented at 2 meetings ago. We were informed earlier this week that it had been submitted at 1.3 million. So I'd say
Very big number. It's good. It's good. There's a couple new commercial buildings. Well, surprisingly, a lot of it had to do with personal property. So she feels confident with it, and there's no reason for me to suspect it'd be otherwise. So taking that
For
and
once, it wasn't Uncle Phil building something new.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, residential.
excuse me.
Like I said, personal property, not
Personal property.
not even resident, we're talking about trailers and campers and.
More like machinery and stuff
Yeah.
like that, like computers, stuff like, yeah, it's just, it's at the commercial rate.
Okay.
You know, so like,
When you drove it down,
yeah, 1.3,
that's a lot of.
yeah. Well, it's not solely that, it was just, I thought that was a large number
Oh, I know
as
that.
part of the makeup, but yes. Also residential and whatnot too, as well. So we're using that number, we feel confident that that's what it's gonna come out at, and the assessors certainly do. And again, I have no reason to suspect otherwise. At this point, as of last Friday, free cash is now certified. The exact number now appears on the recap there. It's $3,869,569. So we can now use that at town meeting, which is awesome. I was a little nervous with the town meeting being brought up a couple weeks, but we got it in, it's approved, we're ready to rock. Back to.
Zach, where is that?
It's on this sheet.
On the other sheet, the bottom.
It's on the funding source for town meeting articles, not the.
Right in the middle of the two dark lines.
Okay, I see it.
At the top.
All right. So these are all important points as we talk about these last two articles. So I'm gonna start with the stabilization article. Last we presented 700,200 going towards the capital stabilization account, 500 as set up as a goal for our classic stabilization account. Now, at our financial team meeting, and since the development of the first item there of the fire truck being passed over, we talked about what it would mean for next year and what it means currently for our financial situation and the targets that we're hitting. So we're strongly recommending, this is a finance committee article, so we're strongly recommending that we take that 650,000 and include it with the 200,000 and put it into the stabilization account. We know it's gonna be coming up next year, on top of a pretty healthy amount of capital.
I'm confused. 200,000, originally you said 500 to the stabilization and 250
200 for the field,
for the field.
correct.
Now you're saying you want to put it all in stabilization, or?
No, we wanna take the money that we had currently earmarked here for the truck that's being passed over, the fire truck, and put that into the capital account.
Capital,
So that
okay.
we have it for next year.
That I'm 100% behind, because you know we got
Yes,
600,000
we did.
coming at us next year. And if
Exactly.
we put the 200, we're done with the field allocation. Okay, I just want to make sure I understood.
Absolutely.
That's
Yep.
perfect, Zach.
Yep, I did want to hit a couple other points of why we want to do that too, just to put it out there. We're in the middle of potentially purchasing the water company. One of the biggest measurements as we go along with bonding agencies is our willingness to add to our stabilization account in conjunction with our willingness to pay for capital with cash. So visibility, this is going to be really, really good and perfect timing as we move forward and hopefully get into a good situation with the water company. What's my other point on there?
Zach, just out of well, just real quick. Out of that 3.8, so 750 goes into long-term planning, which we'll use up most of it next year if the field no. Where does the rest go? Are you going to get to that?
Out of the free cash?
Yeah.
Yeah,
We're gonna get to that in the next article.
yes.
Okay, okay,
Yep.
then I'll hold.
Correct, all right. So, going towards that right now.
Zach?
Yes.
Just refresh my memory on stabilization. What are we putting into our traditional long-term,
500,000,
and that's what we've done from year to year?
yes.
So we're not increasing that this year?
No,
Okay.
yep, we're gonna stay with the 500,000.
The only increase that we're gonna have here, we were going to do 7, and now we're gonna do 135. And the reason that we're doing that is because we didn't pay for the fire truck this year.
No, I
We're gonna pay
understand.
for it next year. So that's why you're seeing a stabilization, a contribution of 1.35 million here, because we just took the 650 and moved
I
it
was
in.
actually looking at when you could put more in, if you so choose. But anyway.
That's kind of what I was going to next, yeah. So,
You good?
so with free cash, I'm gonna jump over to there quick. With free cash, right now, the only article that we're gonna have hitting out of free cash is gonna be the taxpayer relief. Originally, the taxpayer relief was 1.5 million to hit our target of 3.29 of excess levy capacity, which was last year's number, which is absolutely achievable, and actually, we're gonna do a little bit better. We'll keep it 1.5, and the target actually could hit 3.7 million this year, which is high, but it's a really nice. It's a good year, and there's no real reason that
Not
we
high
don't
enough,
have.
there's a school coming.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, we're gonna get much higher than 3.7, but I said that, I said that at 1.8, at 2.1, at 2.4.
No, but I'm just saying, this is a great time to sock some money away into, Phil's long, traditional stabilization, because that school ain't gonna get any cheaper.
Yeah, absolutely not.
Okay, I mean, that really got forced out of the P and L, is what you're saying.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep,
She had
yep,
1.5.
Correct.
from last year coming forward, and we had excess in the P and L, and that gets.
exactly.
And
Yep.
new
Now,
growth, and new growth was.
now, we could have said, okay, let's reduce the 1.5 in free cash to a lower number, but I just don't think it's necessary. I think we could afford to do this year, and I spoke last time about one of the main reasons we keep ending up in this situation is that we are saving free cash to move into the annual town meeting. It's a really awesome philosophy. We tackle our snow and ice deficit, and we tackle any necessary capital at the time that allows us to keep anything and everything out of raise and appropriate until we end up at this town meeting right here. So under this model here, I don't think it's necessary to reduce the free cash and to have a smaller excess levy capacity figure, because we'd still be rolling in with around $2.4 million. Now, it's kind of funny, it's almost like it's very, very similar numbers to the situation we were in last year, if everyone recalls. The taxpayer relief article was 1.3. We're looking at 1.5 now. The rollover of free cash last year was about 2.5. We're looking at 2.4. So my point is, if all goes as planned and we follow this, we should be in a situation to do it again and set ourselves up perfectly again.
But, Zach, just to make a point, I mean, we could have kept the taxpayer relief at 3.2 and added on $500,000. That's the old one, okay.
Yes, we could. That's correct. Yes.
I just wanted to.
Yes, that's absolutely correct. Yep.
So do we need
Before we open this up for discussion, when you get to these last two articles and you talk about these kind of numbers, it just goes to show the good work that the people in Milford are doing in town hall and you guys and your office.
That's what we just talked about upstairs.
It's fantastic, and we're doing this and still putting in air conditioning and buying trucks and snow plows, and no one's cutting down lots of trees. We're addressing the needs of our town, providing great services to our town, and still being mindful of the taxpayers and saying, listen, just because we have it doesn't mean that we're going to tax you. And I think that that's a true testament and a great philosophy that this committee, and I know the Selectman's office, has really gotten behind and said, we're not gonna spend it just because we have it. It's not right.
Absolutely. Right. Yeah.
So, I know the taxpayers of the town, I know they certainly, mention it to me when they talk to me, that, they can never figure out how much it is, but they know that their tax bill is not going up as much as,
Yeah.
it's still going up more than they want, but
As it
it's
should.
not going up more than what it
And
should be.
I think one of the real great things that we're all collectively behind too is we're sitting here, and many communities are focusing solely on trying to plan for this tax rate right here and not looking anywhere further. So I'm sitting here presenting in front of you not only right now, but our plan to do it again next year. So it's just being mindful of not only now, but sustainability. And I think it's come a really long way.
Yeah, Zach, quick question. And I did talk to Paul earlier today, so, but I just want to get this up. We don't have any opportunities to pay off any debt. I mean, all of a sudden,
Not
the
right
interest rates are
now.
pretty low.
There are with the sewer, it's just that the rates are low and it's not necessary for them. We could, but it's a significant amount on kind of our side, but it's, again, the rates are so low for the ones that we potentially could, so it's.
New rates are going up.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
just want to go through that exercise in my mind, that's one of the things we look at, is paying off debt. So I just
Yeah.
wanted to get
Yep,
Yep.
absolutely. Great point, Phil. Anybody else? All right, let's take them one by one. Let's do our article first. Article 36?
Five.
We're 35. To make an allocation to our stabilization account in the amount of 1.35 million. 500 of that would be placed into our traditional stabilization fund, and 850,000, oh no, 850,000 would be contributed to the long-term capital stabilization fund. Motion by Jerry, second by Mike. All those in favor? Unanimous. Article 36, select an article. This would be to spend $1.5 million in free cash in order to receive a excess levy capacity of $3.7 million.
So move.
Motion by Jerry.
Read that one back.
We're gonna spend $1.5 million of free cash to
the tax
the
rate.
tax rate.
Yeah.
That would achieve an excess levy capacity of 3.7 million, right?
Yep.
Motion by Jerry, seconded by Schiavi. All those in favor? Unanimous. Thank you, guys. I know 37 articles is a lot, and I appreciate between last week and this week, everybody was great, so. Thank you very much.
Chris,
Oh,
before
sorry.
I'll put together by tomorrow, or worst case Friday, the draft for the town meeting. I'll circulate it like I always do.
Yep.
Paul, does that give you enough time? When does it have to go out? Oy.
I thought you said it was Monday.
Unless someone tells me Monday, but I was told Friday.
Okay, so guys, I'll put it together tomorrow morning.
I'll also talk to her and see if we can do Monday.
Right, try and look at it tomorrow, get me back any changes, suggestions, because then I'll make it black and white, give it to Paul, and I'll send the final version out then Friday morning or Thursday night. Is that, well, I'll try Thursday night.
Put a deadline on your email message.
I'll put a deadline on the email, but just so you all know, Thursday night it goes to Abo Dabo, and it's out of our hands. Paul, I'm not quite, I know that you have to make a couple copies, that's why I'm saying Thursday night then will be the
Yep.
final.
All right.
Awesome. One last comment.
Yep, very good point.
Al said this about 72 times, but I'll say it one more. If anyone has anything that needs to go on the website, you get it to me, I'll get it to Andy, let's pop it on. But
Yep.
we've already we set it up, it's ready to rock,
Yep.
we got things up there already, so.
Perfect.
And we just want the town meeting members to know we're living up to our commitment.
think it's
That is
good.
close to a month before town meeting as we can get. We're only 2.5 weeks,
Yeah,
but
it also got moved up, so.
Yeah.
Just a quick question. In terms of free cash rolling into next year, we have the 2.3.
Is that a typo?
Correct.
Yes.
No, we did.
This year, we had 800,000 rolling in.
Into this number that got certified, that's correct, yes.
Yep, nope,
Yes.
very good.
Yep,
Okay.
correct, yep.
Any other discussion, guys?
Adjourn.
Move to adjourn, Chuck, second by Phil. All those in favor? Done.
good job.
Good job.